All right. Well, hopefully you can hear us now and just guessed all the wonderful things I said about 5 minutes ago.
I remember them. It's fine.
So one more time, I am Jess Moon. I'm one of the design managers on XD. Joined with me today is, I'm going to do a better introduction this time.
Wow. Okay. Then.
One of my most favorite people that I get the pleasure of working with. Super talented, super amazing, and super fun to be with. Coworker, peer, friend, everything. And yes, it is Talin Wadsworth.
Thanks, Jess. And all of that right back at you. You know, the best part of my job is getting really to work with you and then do fun things like this. Like I've been looking forward to this for weeks now when they first asked us to come and of course talk about all the amazing things that just wrapped up at Adobe Max, especially for Adobe XD. And I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I'll do this with Jess every day.
Oh man, you're so sweet. Well, I am so stoked to get into today's live stream. It's one of my favorite ones that we've actually planned. And so, you know, we're actually right off the cusp of Adobe Max, which was last week. I don't know how many of you in the chat watched in, tuned in, but it was a pretty amazing thing to see so many people watching these keynotes. Like, man, the ability to actually watch that without having to be in a virtual or in an actual physical place was interesting. And for us, you know, our team is remote. We have teams across 5 different places in XD. And so it was quite a different experience. We absolutely enjoyed it. And so hopefully you guys also tuned in as well and enjoyed it as well.
It was amazing. I mean, we got biggest Max ever just in terms of like attendance, even though that attendance was virtual. And of course it was free this year. So it opened up the doors to think so many people enjoying the amazing content that was shared. And of course, listening, hearing from those amazing creatives, those talented people who are working across all different kinds of industries. I mean, probably our most diverse and expansive Max ever. It was really exciting.
I loved it. And we were having a good time. And actually just real quick, because I think people often like to hear about the little inside stories that we've got Talin in our team, but we were we were watching the keynotes, and of course Coy, our lovely boss, is there. And it was really fun watching him do the demos, and they're just like in Slack, little chipmunk gallery commenting on his shirt, on his hair, on everything, on the features.
Nice, yeah, in real time. At least he didn't have any technical. He could sort of like get rid of all the technical hurdles that he's faced the last few years in demoing the XD up on stage. You know, doing it live is nerve-wracking enough as it is, but then to have like the equipment, the setup go wrong on you 2 years in a row, I think he was very happy to leave all that behind.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Talin, I want to show your screen right now because we're going to be demoing today so many of the new features that we're super excited is finally is in everyone's hands. And look at this. Wait, scroll back up.
Okay,
look at this beautiful
new site.
Our lovely marketing team and our designers, special shout out to Marco and Glaren, who are amazingly talented
They've
folks.
done amazing work.
This is our brand new website, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, do familiarize yourself. It's got a great walkthrough of our features in case you're newer to XD. And this page is a revamped version of our What's New page, which every time I go to it, I just stare at the type because it's so shiny, and I'm just like, oh my God, absolutely love it.
Yeah, so we relaunched the brand right before Max. So
yeah,
brand new website, brand new brand elements. You'll see
brand new brand.
Brand new brand. Brand new brand.
Yep.
Here on the site, you'll see this also inside of XD. It was a feat of strength and endurance to get this out the door. I'm very proud of that team.
Yep. So we've got today some new releases from XD34, and we're going to show off 3D Transform in some pretty epic ways. It's going to be pretty fun. Talin and our principal engineer, Anirudh, were definitely the heart and soul behind this feature, and so nobody knows this feature better than these two.
We're going to have some fun with it.
Yep, can't wait to show you what we've got. And then also we have a lot of other great experiences, including the libraries integration that we have, Creative Cloud Libraries, heck yes. And also some other little quality of life improvements, nested components, which a lot of folks have been wanting forever, ever. And component states and design specs for all your developer dreams coming true.
Pretty great.
And next, I will just, since we have your browser showing, I want to highlight one other amazing designer, and that is Emma Zhang, who, I mean, I can go on about her, but Talin, you know her way better than me and absolutely adore her, so maybe you should take it.
Yeah, so Emma is one of our talented brand designers here at Adobe, and I've known her since she was an intern. And every year she just sort of blows me away with the work that she's been doing and how she's been growing as an artist. And, you know, and she not only does amazing work for Adobe, and you'll see it in all the brand elements that you see kind of across Creative Cloud, but she does all this amazing work. I think she sleeps really, and I think is my sort of my sort of assumption here. But she was really the inspiration for our stream today. You know, when Jess and I were talking about what we wanted to design, what kind of, you know, of course we want to show off the features, but we want to design something cool. You know, something that kind of gets us out of our everyday. You know, because we're designing XD all the time, like, let's go design something else, you know, with XD. And so, you know, Emma is just one of these talented people that we work with in Adobe Design, and you know, been a good friend of ours for a long time now. And she has, because you should go check out her Instagram page here, Creatively Create. She is such a talented artist. And also she is a tarot aficionado. And I think that was really where we're getting into the sort of the inspiration point for our stream today. She has been creating this series of reimagining the classic tarot cards, sort of all the major sort of players in the sort of tarot universe. And she's been creating all of these and on the road to creating and publishing her own tarot deck, which I am definitely going to be one of the first people to purchase this deck.
100%.
Again, I'm not like, so today, just a fair warning, we actually are going to be designing a tarot app, but actually Jess and I are pretty much tarot newbies. We have admired from afar, and we are going to design an experience with Emma's work here as kind of featured a part of our app today. And so definitely go check her out. She has done just amazing work here. Has a real style, real sense of style. And so she's sort of making her way through you know, all of these cards. I mean, there's a lot of them, and she's been she's going to be upwards of 50 of these illustrations, I think, when she's all done.
There's go to her first post, the most recent one, because if you're a nerd who likes to see the dissection of how to on it, if you go to the here we go, you can see she's been lately posting some of the work in progress shots, and I just, from an illustration perspective, I love watching these videos because they really kind of just show like not only like the craft that goes into it, but you can learn some hacks and steal some of that mojo because she's so freaking talented and see it. So, oh my God, I could watch this for days.
So good. So good. So good.
Oh, she's so talented. I'm so jealous. Okay. All right. Well, so enough of us chatting. Maybe we should get to it. And you can let us know what we're actually building here. Bam.
Okay. So today we are going to be designing a tarot app. And actually, if you go out there, and I looked for a tarot app out there, something that I could sort of go in and maybe get a daily reading myself and kind of have that whole thing sort of generated. And maybe that's kind of the antithesis of tarot. So, you know, I'm definitely going to put that out there. Like maybe, you know, a tarot app isn't quite, doesn't quite make, you know, have the tactile quality of tarot, you know, the tarot experience. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we, you know, used 3D Transform and all the other great features in XD to create a tarot app experience. So again, like, I've never had a tarot reading done. Jess, have you?
It's just, so we were talking about this before the show, where I not only have never gotten a reading, but I in general was YouTubing frantically all sorts of videos that not only explain how to read it, but what an actual reading feels like. And what I realized is there's a lot of different ways you can actually get a reading done, which is crazy. So it's yeah, it's a
very
lot.
True. Very true. And, you know, everything's got its own idiosyncratic sort of methods. You know, everybody's got a different sort of variation of it. And so I think what we're going to try and do is kind of just do So, the basics. And again, another inspiration point for us today is also the CoStar app, which I've been a big fan of. If you're a fan of astrology, the CoStar app, not only do I sort of love it from sort of, the aspect of astrology, sort of getting in there and seeing your sort of daily readings and your signs and all that, but just the aesthetic. I really thought today for our project, we could kind of push the sort of digital aesthetic, sort of the tech aesthetic a little further. And CoStar is one of my favorite apps that really is pushing the boundaries of again, I don't think it's necessarily hard to push the boundaries of what is considered good tech design, but they're really kind of pushing on kind of what good app design is all about. And I really love that too. So that's kind of an inspiration point. So we're going to be taking some chances today. Not a lot of sans serif fonts. I'll be upfront with all of you. We're going to stay away from the sans serif as much as possible. We're going to try and stay away from the sort of Apple blue as much as possible.
We're going to try anti-sans serif motion.
Yeah. Yes. Hashtag anti-sans serif. That's what we're going to do today. So this is kind of the mood board. We started putting together some of the different, sort of pieces that we were inspired by. And of course, we're going to be tackling the major arcana today. We're going to be using and sort of creating an experience around these cards and sort of all of the tradition and all of the sort of meaning kind of behind them. And so I have a little cheat sheet for us here that we're going to be looking at.
Wonderful.
Talks about all the major arcana. Again, there's major arcana, there's minor arcana. The major arcana are sort of the major players. Those cards have the most meaning when you're doing your readings. They're kind of most impactful when they sort of come up in the deck. And of course, you have the minor arcana, which are sort of, again, more day-to-day, a little more up in the air when it comes to interpretation, little bumps in the road, as it were. And so today we're going to be, with the permission of the amazing Emma, we are going to be putting her designs for the major arcana to work today.
And by the way, I cannot ignore what Howard said, who is in the chat, but he is insulting us by mentioning papyrus as a potential option for typography here. Howard, how could you? Are you trying to
We're a little more refined than papyrus, Howard. We've got we're a little more refined tastes here.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's not a serif or sans serif, but we'll see. This is beautiful.
So anyone in the chat I saw Matthias in there. He mentioned that he's never had a reading done. Has anyone in the chat ever had a tarot reading done? Maybe give us a little, little pointers, some few ideas along the way. Of course, we'd love to hear if you yourself are into it or you're into the tarot scene.
I saw our lovely moderator Voodoo Val has and does readings, and I'm now going to hit her up after this because I'm super curious.
I had a feeling I had talked with Val about tarot before, but I might just be misremembering that. But I had a feeling Val was going to be into this stream today, so I was super happy when she found out she was going to be our moderator in chief today in the chat. Me too. Oh, we have Ainsley too.
Oh, hey, Ainsley.
Ainsley as well, a tarot aficionado from our team, a designer on the Adobe XD team, who we've also worked with for a long time. Yes, cool. Ains, what's up? Great to see you there.
Oh, Lars, Comic Papyrus, another designer on our team, has jokes.
We're here for your jokes.
So right. Here's a bad butchering of how this works, because like I said, I've done a lot of YouTubes. I've never actually had a reading done, but as far as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Talin, you have a bunch of cards. I think it's like 72 or 78, can't remember, or something of that nature. And then you have cards that represent something that are upside, like right side up, so just normal. And then if they happen to be upside down or reversed, then it means something a little bit different. And depending on the type of reading that you have, the person who's doing your reading can basically help either guide or answer questions or give additional context around general things, because there's those kind of general readings, or maybe specific questions that the person who's getting their reading done is asking for, right? And so our app is going to allow for a reading to be done virtually, since we're all in COVID land, and then we'll allow for people to be able to get the information from each of these lovely cards to do a proper reading, correct?
So
Cool.
there's a couple different ways we could sort of do this. Again, there's lots of ritual sort of built up, and, shuffling the deck. And that'd be kind of fun to play with today. Again, I think our main experience today is going to be really sort of shuffling the deck and sort of dealing the deck out, sort of in some kind of arrangement. But, everybody's got some little quirks or, little rituals that come in when sort of shuffling the deck or dealing it out. Anything on that front, Jess, any sort of guide signposts along the way for us? Like, where do we, is there kind of a standard arrangement of tarot cards? Is there one that's kind of the standard experience, like if we were like first timers, as we are in this case?
Well, as a very not educated and totally guessing person who has absolutely no authority over this topic, can I add any more disclaimers to that? If you aren't knowledgeable in the chat, please do correct us constantly. So the ones that I've kind of noticed that people are talking about is, well, first off, it's really fascinating, right? Like even just the ritual of shuffling is an art in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Folks really spend, especially the person who's doing the reading, spend a lot of time and their energy and their focus trying to be as meaningful in their shuffling as possible. Obviously, one that you see in the movies all the time that you're kind of making right now is after you've gone through the ritual of shuffling, you just kind of fan them out. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, even there's all sorts of different techniques in picking the card, right? Like being able to, as a reader, kind of like looking at the cards and having the ones that come most intuitively to you as the ones that you choose. But yeah, seeing the kind of fanning is definitely one that is common. There are other ones I've seen, like people will do kind of like what I guess is kind of like solitaire, where you can kind of put the cards in different piles. And then when you put them in a different pile, you can do a reading based off of each pile, which then you can give some sort of general reading to. But that's as far as I know in terms of shuffling. Anyone else in the chat, feel free to add some color to that. Wait a second. So what are you doing here? There's all these little things, and so I am not too familiar with this file here, but you have some components. Yes. And
yes. So let's go back a little bit. So what I created today. So I kind of gave us a head start. I said we've got some art to work with. Of course, what is the name of our application? And then of course, we want to sort of design out and kind of prototype kind of the core experience. And I think the shuffling and the dealing, of course, is going to be the heart of our experience. And I think that's where we're really going to sort of hone in on it and at least sort of nail that first. What I've done is kind of, I always like to start from somewhere. And of course, the more kind of systematized you can start, and the better your project's going to end up kind of down the road. So what I've done is I've created kind of the core style elements, of our design system that we're going to be using for our app today. I haven't gone deep in sort of designing out the sort of UI components, but I thought, well, let's just start with at least the name and some of those major style elements. So of course, this is up for change. We can change this if we want, but I decided that maybe we should call this the Daily Arcana.
Yes.
Arcana being kind of an extrapolation from Latin, which means secrets. So this is the Daily Secrets app. So this is an app that the goal, I think, is to have you could come in daily and kind of get a reading. And then, maybe sort of at significant waypoints, we can have kind of maybe more in-depth readings. But this is the app I come to today to kind of center myself, kind of set my day, the tone for my day. So I see this as definitely something that can be done on the phone or on the iPad. And this is sort of part of my daily routine, as something like CoStar has, I think, become for a lot of users of the astrology app CoStar as well.
Very cool.
Can just weave it into your day. So like, this is the Daily Secrets, the Daily Arcana.
Lots of folks from our chat are approving of your typography here. They love it. They love the sans. They love the serif. It's very beautiful, and the colors and the icons. So great job.
Awesome. So this is Fino, which is an amazing typeface I found browsing through Adobe Fonts over the weekend. And this is a display typeface, and it actually has these wider characters, alternate characters.
Look at that.
And you can do that by actually using the sort of capital. The capital is actually that expanded, that wider
that is
set,
cool.
Right?
That is very cool.
So that was a really nice typeface. I thought that was just beautiful.
Papyrus, can you do that? Sorry. Remembering that comment earlier.
I don't think I have Papyrus installed on my machine. I'm gonna have to double check. But
You should check that. You ever go out in life and then you notice the thing and it's actually a font that you despise and hate, and then you just kind of look at it and it just bothers you in the moment that you're walking around. I had that happen to me. I'm not gonna lie, no offense, but Hobo is one of those fonts that just gets overused. And whenever I cross by a sushi place and I see it, I'm just like, you and Papyrus, bane of my existence. Anyway,
warded off with some so that this is I loved sort of the this is kind of a constructed serif, as it were. It's got those kind of machined, as it back in the old day, kind of hard angles on the serifs.
Yes.
Again, definitely would be hard to recreate by hand. And of course, it has these wider, alternate characters, which I loved. And it also looked like a kind of like a crescent moon a little bit, that C. And I think that's what I also really liked it. So that's kind of where we kind of landed with that. And then, of course, serif typefaces, of course, I'm not going to knock them full together. Like they are very legible, particularly at smaller sizes. So I paired Pheno with Mr. Eves from one of my favorite type foundries, Emma Gray. Huge fan of Emma Gray. And of course, this is a more modern update on the original Mrs. Eves that they created back in the late 80s, I believe. And so we are going to be using Mr. Eves for our contrasting and complementary typeface.
What a lovely, lovely pairing, Mr. Talin. This is beautiful. I love it. That's
why I love these kind of projects. Get to flex some of that design muscle. I mean, we're working with Spectrum, which is our Adobe design system, when we're designing XD. And I was just like, time to push this, time to do something a little different. So I always kind of
because people are wondering in the chat. Yes, I have a dog. This is one of the lovely things about streaming from your home is he will bark from time to time, in case you're wondering. So say hi. You are on camera.
He's so cute. He's so cute.
In case you're wondering who I'm batting away from time to time, I'm on screen.
I love him. I love him. Well, so cool. So we've got some icons. I went and gathered some icons from the Noun project that I thought fit right in line.
Yes.
And took some inspiration from our brand, actually, for our colors today. So I think we're going to use that as a starting point.
Someone in the chat is asking if you could zoom in for a second. Enhance. So they can see and admire your typography. Yes, there you go.
There you
Enhance. Go. Lovely.
Yes, there's some there's some contrast, some thicks and thins, kind of in Mr. Eves as it gets to more bolder sort of weights. I love the J and I love the G and I love the roundness of these. And I thought, again, that roundness of the counters here, I think really just kind of reflected a little bit of that roundness of this alternate C here. So I thought that was a nice pairing. So
absolutely awesome.
Yep. Of course, we have some cool icons here too as well. So what I've done, again, going to get, as I like to do this kind of whenever I'm starting my own file, right? One of the things that I really start with, and I work with probably this panel open the majority of the time, actually is the assets panel. So creating all of my global colors, character styles, and all of my components. I start to sort of add them here. Again, I can really orchestrate the document by creating this. And so I always make sure I do this to start. Of course, it's a great way to get into a project too. Again, sometimes when you're faced with that blank page and you got to go do all that other stuff and fill out the rest of the application, like that's a little daunting. So sometimes this is a nice way for me to kind of like get in the zone a little bit, kind of get that flow going for, working on design. So creating this style guide and creating the document assets, that was a great place to start. And of course, a great opportunity, Jess. For us.
I was going to say, I'm about to use my jazz hands here. Feature number one.
Why don't you set it up for us? What are we going to be doing? What are we going to be doing next year?
Well, I mean, first off, for those of you guys who have used XD for a while now, I'm going to just jazz hand for a second and say, look at this panel right here and what's different. Hopefully not too much is different in that we worked on trying to make the most seamless integration as possible here, but there is something different about this left panel. It is a new feature that just came out with Max, which is this document assets panel. Works the same way it always has, except now it is integrated into our libraries experience. So If you go ahead and click on the lovely thing right there, what you'll notice here is you have direct in-app access to all of the libraries, all of the things. And you can easily bring any of those libraries into XD and use those systems, those design systems with a quick jazzy click or tap or whatever you're using to find all of those things there. Wow, you have a lot of libraries, Talin.
I have a lot of libraries. Yes, I do. So right now, sort of for everybody to kind of know, all your libraries are actually turned on by default. So if you're kind of familiar with Creative Cloud libraries, they're sort of all going to be available for you here to start browsing and start using immediately inside of XD. And what I've done, but again, what's kind of great about this implementation of libraries in XD is we've started to create a model for that like higher level of governing the sort of design file, the governing kind of the managing assets you're using per design document, and the ability to sort of manage your design system for your team at kind of a higher level. So this starts to create this model where you can go up, browse all your libraries, and you can then just add them directly to this document. And now every time you open up this document, these libraries are going to be accessible and ready for me to go, right? Because it's always great to have this stuff at your fingertips, but sometimes it's just such a pain to sort of, navigate through all of them all the time. And if you open up one document, if you're turned to a different library, again, this is where we've really been able to push kind of the boundaries of kind of like that library workflow and really kind of iterate on it. And I think make it a lot better for the UX UI design workflows in particular.
Yep. Well said. And it's definitely something that we are super excited to leverage. It's super fun and great. So, oh my goodness, look at all those talented assets. Are amazing.
I have gone out and curated some of, again, a lot of my inspiration for this comes from just the artists that I love and sort of follow out there. And I went and, of course, not only do we sort of, pull Emma, so we have all of Emma's here, all of her artwork, all her amazing artwork actually here in a library. Again, we can use this inside of XD, we can use this inside of Photoshop, we can use this inside of Fresco on Fresco on the iPad. I always forget, like I get so used to referring to our products by their code names. And then like Fresco was Fresco for so long, and then it was like I thought then sometimes we give it an official name and that changes. But in Fresco's case, we actually kept it. So I was just like, hold on a second, am I remembering that I'm saying the right name for the app? Yes, Fresco. Illustrated on the iPad, of course. Again, these are now accessible everywhere. And so I can just drag and drop them in. So if maybe we wanted to try a different thing here instead of the magician, I could swap out really quickly to the Empress here, and we can see how the Empress looks on the card design here.
Look at that swap. Ooh, nice.
Right. And then, of course, if Emma, the lovely Emma, would actually change this because it's sort of come in through the library, it'll come in and update automatically here inside of XD. So super handy. Really, really powerful new feature here in XD.
Aditya is commenting on how well organized and managed your library is, and they are properly impressed. As am I.
Well.
It's only a show, guys. When you look at your work in progress ones.
You just, like you're doing this. So, again, I knew other people were going to be looking at my document in my library today. So
everyone's judging, always judging.
Yes. Don't look at my layers panel, please.
All right.
All right. So what what part of the thing I was thinking about too, that we could do is also kind of allow you as the user to actually choose which deck that you're going to be using for your reading, because there's so many amazing artists out there. And so here I just did a quick sort of survey and actually a little history. So it was a woman who was actually the illustrator for what is probably the most popular tarot deck ever, the Rider-Waite tarot deck. This is the deck that you'll probably see most often out there in the world. It was Pamela Coleman Smith, actually, who was a collaborator on that deck, and she did all the amazing illustrations. The illustrations that are inspiring, all the artists, all the illustrators doing this amazing work today. I love this work by Lisa Searle. She did this here with the Hierophant. Actually, my favorite, I love this one right here, the Emperor.
Oh yeah.
Super cool.
Beautiful.
I just love that. So very fashion forward. I love just sort of the stories being told in her work. So that's great. And then of course Emma, Richard Black was another one I saw. Joe Power, who's I love this, again, something a little different. This illustration style, just I love. And then the one here on the end is Yoshi Yoshitani, and it's all fairy tales. This is a fairy tale.
Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so pretty.
I know, it's so nice.
Oh,
this one right here.
And was that did you just sneak in a feature there with the scrollable group?
I did.
Did I just see that?
I did. Sorry, I was gonna make this is the start of an experience. So let's actually preview this here. So what I've done here, because of course this is wider than the artboard I had, I quickly just made this group into a scrollable group by toggling on horizontal scroll here in the transform section of the property inspector. And by doing that, it automatically cropped it to my artboard. And you can see what the artwork was hanging over the edge. All right, it just cropped it right there. And then when I go and actually preview this, again, I've already got my scroll in place. Again, this is probably need to be a little bit wider, but let me see, I'll just sort of, for effect, I'll just sort of put it down like that. And
there is also a shortcut to scrollable groups in case you are a shortcut fiend like me, which is Shift Command H for horizontal, Shift Command V for vertical. I do love it when a shortcut starts with the letter of the word. So
very nice. So yeah, so you can go in there, and these handles make it really easy. Sort of set that interactive area in your app. Look at that. Love it. So yeah, so again, I thought, part of our experience today, and Jess will talk about this a little more in a second, but you could choose your deck, the deck that you're going to be getting your reading with today.
That's
and maybe even
cool.
in the future, actually, purchase the decks and actually support the art, of these artists. Maybe that's something we do in the future. So
oof, this app is going to be awesome. Someone needs to take it and build it.
Yes. All right. So again, one of the other things I want to sort of show here now, again, now that we've looked at the libraries I've connected to my document. Right now I have this started this design system, right?
Nice.
And one of the new features that we launched at Max is now just the ability to sort of have this integrated libraries experience inside of your document, inside the assets panel, but now actually publish your design system as a library.
Yes.
Right. So up here now in the top right of the document assets section of the panel, I can actually now publish my library. So I can just create a library from this file now. And what it'll do is it's going to take up all those global colors, all those character styles, and all those components and icons that I've created, and it's going to publish them as a library that I can then invite my team to. And again, this is another thing where we're really innovating and really pushing the library's workflows forward. This will actually now create a library that can be kind of governed, right? So the people who are accessing that library that I'm going to be sharing are, again, only the people I intend to, right? I can invite them only to that, but they're not going to be able to change any of those assets inside of that library. I can control all of those changes from the original XD file.
Yep.
And this kind of allows, again, that model of governorship where I might be the creator of the design system for my team. And of course, in the old world of libraries, anyone at any time could actually edit those. And then of course those changes would just push out automatically.
Yep.
But now in XD, I can do my changes in the file, and I continue to iterate on the design system. And when I'm ready, I can actually republish those changes. And then everyone who's using those elements from the library will then be able to update from those. So again, the updates aren't just happening automatically, which if you're a user of Creative Cloud libraries, that's sort of what happens today. So this is a really amazing step forward for libraries and for XD.
Yeah, and I'll say that that's definitely something that people have been asking for a while, right? Is that you've put all this hard work into making this library, you've organized it in such a way, especially when it comes to iterations that happen and you're changing assets, you really do want the fidelity and the ability to really kind of control and gate when you're going to actually make updates. So those who are using it, can actually use the ones that make sense, use the updates that make sense. So hopefully this will help with a lot of folks who are working on teams. And even just for yourself as an individual, going between like this kind of nice library that you're curating here and then, using portions of it for your various different workflows. We're looking forward to seeing how folks use this, and definitely welcome some feedback.
Yes, indeed. Please let us know if you're using libraries, how you're using them. We'd love to learn more. So yeah, all right. So again, so this is a 2-day stream. Yes. So I do have some ideas. I just wasn't able to get it all done today for the back of the card. And Jess, if you have any ideas too, we'll get a nice back going as well. So we've got the front of our card, we've got the back of our card, kind of as part of our sort of system here. Actually, I haven't added the back yet, so I'm actually going to do that real quick by using Command K and creating a component. And let's see, I was having some network trouble when it came to publishing. Let me just see how this is going. Okay, this is still publishing. We're going to come back to this because what's going to happen is now that I've added this new component to the component, the assets panel here, I'm going to have the option to update my library with this and include this new component. Again, today, actually right now, if I invited any of you and you went and saw that library, this brand new component wouldn't be there until I decided to sort of push that update out to the library. So we're going to save that for a second and wait for my network to kind of catch up so we can go back and check that out.
So what are we doing in terms of, so we went through this first screen that shows us the deck that you can choose from, which by the way, I'm sure readers out there are thrilled about this because from everything I've gleaned off the internet, this is a really important part to making your own kind of intimate sort of reading experience, right? But you click on one, and in our case, we're going to click on Emma's, and then from there, what is the next kind of experience that we want to put people in?
Well, we can do a couple things. We could do an interstitial here from choosing your deck. We can kind of like give you a little more information about the deck and about the artist. That can be kind of cool. And I have some ideas, of course, to use one of my favorite new features to do that. So we could definitely do that. And of course, from there, we want to, I think from choosing the deck, if we do have that little sort of screen to sort of look at, see more about the artist. We then want to confirm that this is our deck, and that will take us into the deck shuffle and dealing experience.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. So we've got our scrollable group here. We've got a bunch of amazing artists sort of featured here. Of course, we're going to go in and layer in more information here. You can imagine that, again, there's some sort of global navigation here. But again, we're sort of going to just sort of sketch out, rough in kind of the core of the experience. It's how I like to start a lot of my design work, is to just focus on the story first, focus on that core experience, and later on go back in and start to layer in more of the sort of details and more of the just the sort of all the nuances of an experience, and of course all of the sort of major sort of global pieces as well. And today we're designing for the iPad. Again, I thought it'd be fun to do something. We always do phones. Last time we were streaming, we did it with a phone app. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe do something a little more expansive. Of course, give us a little more room to do the shuffling and the dealing and everything like that. So thought we'd start with that. So, okay, so I've got this here, and I thought, okay, what would if we want to do? Maybe I'll show you the little thing I was thinking of in terms of the experience here with tapping on the artists. So what we're going to do here. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the screen. I'm going to duplicate these. We've got Emma's card here, and now here I have her card on the second screen. And what I wanted to do is actually kind of like come forward, right?
All right.
Today, how we would do this, of course, is we would have to basically scale it, right? We'd take this and we would go, all right, I'll make that larger there, put that in front. And of course, as we do this, things immediately start to sort of get off in terms of accuracy. This typeface is now larger than the typeface used on the rest of the cards here, on the labels here. Again, the scale of this has changed. So if I say had a a sort of template or component for each of the cards, then as I scaled it, again, that would sort of break it. So this is fine. This is how we would do it today, right? If we would go from this screen to this screen by
scaling is so early.
Scaling
2020.
is so early 2020, Howard. Exactly. Right.
I was gonna say this is like this is non-destructive, but it's not the best non-destructive out there.
Yeah.
Is what you're alluding to.
It's changing the values. I guess destructive. Scaling is destructive in a way where, again,
Mhm.
it breaks the system, right?
Yeah, true.
Now, if I go back and I change this style from, say, like the assets panel, Emma's name here, if I wanted to go and change this to, I think I have this, I have that one set up. Yeah, this one here. So if I went and I changed this to, okay, so instead of, bold, maybe we're going to do, regular here.
Right.
You see, as I changed it, Emma's name did not change, right? So what I've done by scaling it, again, I haven't broken it in terms of its integrity as a design element on the canvas, but I've by scaling it, I've kind of broken from the system that I've created.
Exactly.
Right, and that could be for the style, that could be for the component, right, that I've created, which is bad. Again, I have to go back and sort of manually update it now. It's sort of now kind of I have to create another element in the assets panel to sort of manage it. That's just no good. Yeah.
So there's a better way.
There's a better way. There's a better way.
Incoming feature number 2.
All right. So this is, again, this feature, it was really close to me. I started, Anirudh and I started working on this right before Max last year. And so sort of see it sort of land at Max this year. It's just been huge. Again, so many talented people on the team have contributed to make this such an amazing feature.
Yep.
And of course, I'm talking about 3D Transform. So now inside of the property inspector, when I have any object selected, I can toggle on the 3D Transform, which is going to add some new fields over here to the property inspector, to the transform section, and some new UI here on Canvas. And what I'm going to be able to do now is interact with this UI and actually rotate this card.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wait, Talin, are you saying that's not skewing or scaling in a semi-non-destructive way?
Exactly. If I go in here now and I look at, and I select, say, the type, for example, you can see that it's still set at 17 pixels. The width and the height is still all the same for my card, right? My standard card here is 160 by 300. By doing this, I have not degraded the integrity of this element or my system, right? Yeah. So now if I go back and I'll modify this again. Okay, we'll go from here to regular. Again, you see everything stays in sync.
Oh, yeah.
Magic. Amazing.
Yep.
And of course, now, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So now not only can I rotate in sort of X and Y space, but I can also move it backwards and forwards.
I am.
So here again, instead of scaling, you can see in the property inspector as I move this forward and backwards, the width and the height of it is not changing, right?
Yep.
Staying intact.
Yep. It is a new non-destructive. We are upping the bar in non-destructive and letting designers play on all sorts of new surfaces, if you will, planes, if you will.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Hey, Talin.
Yeah.
I wanted to just interject and say that I threw an image. I'm actually throwing it in right now because we can. I love showing a little bit behind the scenes work if I can. And this is something that one of our designers who worked on this feature did. It kind of is just a little nerdy session for a second, but
yes.
We do spend a lot of our time on these different things, looking at every aspect of it, including, the decorations that allow designers to, manipulate the objects they have on canvas. And so literally the little gizmo that Talin is so effortlessly using to change the planes of that 3D transform went through a lot of different scrutiny, and oh my goodness, that's hilarious. It feels very meta.
How many levels deep are we?
What level are we in? Is this a dream? And so yeah, this is an example that our lovely designer Avalon worked on, where she was really trying to test the bounds of ensuring that that decoration came out crisp. And so all sorts of things between balancing our design system of spectrum, all sorts of things of just seeing how it goes in the most craziest of use cases, such as this ridiculous blue and white wave thing, and then looking at all different ways and getting feedback there. So I just think this kind of stuff is fun to share.
It's great too, and kind of the pedigree of this gizmo actually as well. I don't know if I think there's probably a few of you out there in the chat who probably have some experience with 3D tools that are, of course, very powerful, but also very complex.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the goals with 3D Transform that we really wanted to sort of focus on is, making 3D accessible to people who may not have had that experience and may not have that knowledge that they're bringing, when it comes to, manipulating an object kind of in 3 dimensions. And so this gizmo is actually kind of a simplified and sort of a streamlined version of the gizmo that you'll find kind of in 3D programs, whether that's Blender or Cinema 4D or any of the Substance programs that are part of Adobe. So again, this is sort of hinting at that sort of lineage, but again, making it much more direct and accessible, for UI UX designers who may not have that experience of working within those 3-dimensional tools.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And, for those of you who have watched some of our streams in the past, I am curious if folks are interested in seeing more little things like that when Talin and I stream. We're always looking to see what kind of content you guys want to hear about. And so if it was me, and it has been me because I used to not be on this team, I always love seeing these kind of little behind the scene things as much as possible, just to kind of get a little bit of a nerdy deep dive into these.
Mm-hmm. I love the nerdy deep dives. That's most of the fun. All right, so let's go check this out. Which, again, one of the things that blew me away from the minute that actually Honor put this functionality inside of a prototype of XD, instead of a branch of XD, was that it just worked with auto animate. I mean, I think that was probably one of the biggest moments, sort of aha moments, when we were just kind of blown away by the possibilities. Nice. Was just like, hook this up and give it put it right into XD and give all those other powerful features sort of around it, and like what can happen. And so I'm going to use this now and actually use and go into prototype mode, and I'm going to say on tap, what we want is this amazing card art, this work from Emma to sort of come forward, kind of come at you, through the screen in a way, and of course, easily just animate from being in there in the list to being kind of more in your face and seeing some of those details. And so just wired it up with a tap with auto animate, and I'm going to choose something a little more snappy. And I'm going to quickly, I always like, I like to, again, really test those interactions and animations in real time. And so I often like to kind of toggle back and forth. That's kind of a kind of old school animation technique. If you think about the layers that the animators would use, when they were designing by hand.
Oh yeah.
Being able, this is how you kind of refine and sort of iterate on the sort of interactions and animations. And so I'm going to quickly wire this up so it goes back and forth. So now when we go into the preview window and we test this out,
ooh,
look at that come forward. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. Just even that. I've got a little kind of off kilter as if it's sort of being picked up off the table, and kind of coming at you. Again, we could kind of refine that a little more, but that's pretty awesome.
It's definitely, I have to say, how you walk through that is one of my favorite things about not just auto animate, but the design process, right? Like, I feel like one of my favorite ways of kind of describing how the design process should be, theoretically or philosophically, is like Magic School Bus, right? Like, you kind of have to get a little messy. You can't predict it. You just need to throw some things in there and then just make some mistakes and find your way through it. And just the way you're doing it, right? I think what you're hinting at, Talin, is just how important it is in the process to just kind of get in there, throw things in there, experiment, see how it comes out, and then just refine over time, right?
Exactly. I mean, the minute you can start to see, your designs really come to life, right? The better the end product is going to be, because you're going to be able to sort of see it and evaluate it, and that will lead to its own sort of light bulb, aha moments, right? Those own discoveries of like, oh, I didn't think. What if I did this? And what if we went in there and we tweaked it even more? Again, we can kind of go back here in XD and in real time. Again, we can even start to make this even a little more dramatic, right?
Yep.
And sort of have it sort of come out like this. And again, as I'm testing that, I can see those effects in real time, and that is so important to the discovery process, to the creative process overall. Is just being able to sort of let this sort of guide you. Again, I don't know what that end destination. Again, I may have a good idea of what the big signposts look like in my experience. I want to go from this screen to this screen to that screen. but how I get there is just so important. Again, it kind of speaks to, I think, a lot of what we were thinking about, even in the earliest days of XD, is just giving designers those tools to be able to sort of see and evaluate and then be able to iterate in real time.
I mean, we're really, really big fans of this, and we embrace this fully. As a matter of fact, like my ideal workstation is you have 2 monitors and you just have that preview window up the whole time. And you're just constantly creating and authoring and tweaking in the tool, but you're testing it and really kind of getting that feedback, because my imagination is not vivid enough to be able to say like, oh, well, I can anticipate what that's going to feel like, until I actually just put it there and look at it in the preview window, and I'm like, wow, holy smokes, this is actually more different than what I had imagined, right? It kind of almost feeds back into my own creative process and thinking. So absolutely critical and huge, I don't know, what would you call it, pro tip, if you will, to really leverage that in your design process.
Yes, indeed. So here, let's see what this is going to look like with this amazing death moth.
Look at that! I know.
Rich black here. Again, I'm just going to wire this.
I'm just getting massive envy over all of these different designs.
Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. They're just so. I could have just browsed these, and I could have included so many more. I really had to cut it off at a certain point.
Look at that! Wow, oh, that's super cool.
Super cool. And of course, you can imagine, like, actually what we might want to start doing here is actually moving this over. And let's go back here to the sign a little bit. And tweak that back like this. And then what we have is maybe like something that sort of comes out here like this. And I'm going to go to our assets panel over here. Do that.
There you go. Yep. That's where you're going.
Right, so we can have something kind of come out here, and then I'm going to go and grab this here, come down here, that on, and you can toggle 3D transform on and off to your heart's content. And I'm just going to put this here, and I'm going to say this is rich black.
Alarms are death moth. TM.
Right, so we got, and of course we'd do a little bio of Rich and his work, and we'd probably give you a link to go out and see more of his work, and then probably a button here to actually select the deck. Oh,
did he just say button? Is there an opportunity for us to show off one more feature here?
There is.
The thing that has saved me countless hours since we released it a while ago, which is content-aware layout.
Yes. What should we use for our call to action?
Well, that's an epic pink.
That is an epic pink, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm like hovering art director right now. I won't say anything.
I think we want that lighter pink. I think we want to go with the lighter pink.
Yeah.
I think we want to use bold for this, right? And I think we want to go with our aesthetic here, which is not like full rounded, maybe just a little rounded here.
Little rounded.
Our sort of aesthetic.
Okay.
Here, we're going to center that.
Curtis in chat thinks that it would be interesting to add a slight blur to the cards in the background to add another level of depth on the Z and axis. And please, Curtis and everyone else, give us some feedback, because as much as we like to create these things, we also love creating it together. So, we could just invite you all, I guess, into this doc, but it's also fun to do it this way as well.
Yeah, I mean, and like another thing, speaking to, Curtis, like in our new sort of love of feedback, again, having a tool, again, that sort of allows you to sort of seamlessly sort of iterate and you make those adjustments and get that feedback and fold it in. I mean, again, that's such a part of the creative process, is just being able to get feedback and learn from that feedback, again, whether it's your own as you're iterating or whether it's from someone else, and closing that loop of feedback is so important, right? To just sort of getting your app to that place that, again, is so much better than it would have been if you were just fighting the application just to make updates, or using multiple applications that have, create the interactive prototype.
Yep.
There's a lot of time lost in that, a lot of energy lost. And so, of course, having it all together is the key.
100%.
All right. So as Jess was mentioning, again, one of the other amazing features that we launched pretty recently is the ability to actually add padding, right? So today, again, if I was sort of to create this one button, And then if I wanted to create another one, of course, and each button, right, has a variable label. And so, if I were going to sort of maybe do a different call to action, right, this button would sort of now have wider margins. And of course, if you're, design systems designer, that's going to drive you crazy. You're like, no, consistent margins, please.
Yeah.
And so we actually, created the ability to sort of now take any group and create and turn on padding. So actually, I'm going to close the preview window so we can get in here and see this.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what I can do now, once I've grouped it, I can actually turn on padding. And this will automatically recognize the margins that I've set just by combining this text objects and this rectangle into a group. It's sort of automatically, actually showing me the margins that it's created. Yep. And I'm using the tilde button to hover over and actually see that space. Again, that was something I was geeking.
Pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip. I was actually geeking out about this the other day. Being able to sort of see space as an element that I can put my mouse on and actually adjust directly on the canvas was like one of the geekiest moments in the early days of XD when we were creating Repeat Grid. And it's so amazing to sort of see that idea evolve. And now here we are with padding, and I'm now able to sort of put, and again, select and define the relationship between these objects, not the objects themselves, but the relationship between them. It's so powerful and so much more direct, than if I had to go in there and adjust all these things separately, one at a time.
I mean, there's also designers out there, right? So I think when in me working with you, I realized over time that you're very much, from what I can see, a on-canvas designer. Like you roll up your sleeves and you're just in the canvas, like constantly looking at it and manipulating these things and trying to tweak it. I do that too. For me, sometimes I'm also a bit of a, let me just put the numbers in and try to think about it from that standpoint. So I play in the PI a lot as well, right? When you immediately made that button, I looked at the values and I was like 24, 25. I was like, must change.
This is for you, Jess. This is for you. Here you go. Boom.
There we go.
There we go.
And so, but I think it's like to the philosophies of how we build this tool, which is there is no one way that everyone designs, right? We really try to keep that in mind when we're testing these features. And we're always trying to think of like, there's so many different ways to approach creation. So let's just make sure it works for everybody, right? So.
Yeah, it's there, of course, I love Illustrator and I love Photoshop and I love InDesign and I love all these tools.
Me too.
And I was just one of those people though that was intensely aware of, it was like death by 1,000 cuts when it came to doing certain actions that I wanted to sort of do to make my process better. Doing them over and over and over again, just intensely aware of the time it was taking me every time I was doing it, and I was constantly looking for a better way. And again, that's also something Jess, you and I have talked about, is just again thinking and approaching a design tool and as a tool to help me achieve my goals instead of kind of the set in stone, I always have to do it this way, right? And follow these steps, sort of paint by numbers, right? Exactly. A tool can definitely be that for you, but a tool should really be a tool, something that empowers you to create something, again, that sort of lines up with your goals, with your ideals, and things that you want to communicate.
Yep.
And, a lot of the sort of, principles behind XD are really about doing that. Like that XD is a tool to help you be successful in communicating an idea and hopefully doing it as quickly as possible so that you can make room and create that space for iteration, for evolving your design and pushing it past kind of beyond those boundaries that maybe sometimes the tool kind of arbitrarily sets for you, which is about, it's basically about time and effort and energy. So.
And there you have it. Today's philosophical tidbits from Mr. Wadsworth, who is part theorist, part philosopher, part amazing designer.
Wow, you're way too nice to me today, Jess. You're just like making me blush like constantly. I'm just kind of like, if you guys can't tell, Jess and I really like working with one another, and honestly, is one of like probably the best working relationships I've ever had in my life, honestly. So nobody better to collaborate with for me at least.
Now he's making me blush. Do y'all see this happening? It's like
this is how it goes.
Well, I have the chat on my side, Talin. Everyone was very impressed with what you just said right now, and they're quoting you.
It was very nice of them. Very, very nice of all of you. Again, I love to. I mean, that's why I think I've been at Adobe now for as long as I have. Is that this is fun. This is what I like to think about. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So getting back to padding.
Back to designing.
Back to designing. Here we go. So what we've now done is created, actually, I'm going to create this. I'm going to make this a component. Why am I messing around with this?
Yes, thank you.
There we go.
How barbaric to not make it a component, please.
Yeah, geez. Heathen. I'm a heathen. All right. So now that I've made this into a lovely button, now if I ever wanted to go and,
oh my goodness.
Look at
Every
that.
time. Oh.
Boom. Boom. Look at that. And of course, now, I'm going to make even like a, component override here because, again, our call to action, we want you to select the deck. And our secondary action is to go and support the artist. And look at that. Amazingly simple for me to just create those two quick variations.
I am in the middle of this doesn't do something snarky, sorry. I'm in the middle of trying to find a very PC version of the thoughts that I have right now.
Okay.
Do this, let's see. I feel like whenever I look at something like padding, or whenever I look at something like here we go. Sorry, I am gonna paste this in the doc, and then you guys can
okay.
touch me. All right, there it is. Let's see if you can find it. Just look on here. Whenever I see a feature like padding or auto animate or stacks, what goes on in the back of my mind, because we're all, some of us have been in the design industry longer than others. I don't want to date myself, I'm not that old, but I will say this is that I think of the days when we all just have to fixate and adjust the padding, and then now it's just so natural. I'm like, we've evolved. Us as designers, we've evolved.
Yes.
And that's just always in the back of my mind. That was just a 2 seconds.
I love that. That's a great way to sort of think about it, is thinking about like, the tool should be evolving along with us. And we've all gotten much more savvy at sort of navigating, digital spaces. And really like tools, up until really the last few years, have not really caught up with us. Like they're still really manual and really, I don't want to say dumb, but they're just basically saying like, hey, we're like an open platform. You can put whatever you want in here. We're not going to do, we don't know, like this object might be, we might know that this is type and this is square, but it's really saying, and again, the thing that helps us get to that more evolved state is by saying like, this is a UX UI tool, right? You can create a lot of really amazing things in this, but there's an opinion here that's saying like, this is going to help you create, a button. This is the properties of a button. This is how a button would behave. And thus we can actually kind of streamline that process, right? And streamline sort of the editing and the handling, of a UI component like a button.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So yeah, and I liked somebody's idea about the background blur here. Let's see if this is going to work for us.
Yes.
All right. So create a little more space, which I loved whoever said that. And we're going to turn on the blur here, the background blur. And
ooh, look at that. So instantaneous. Wow, I love watching you design, Talin. I do not design this way. It's very efficient.
Yeah, I just love trying things, Like I just I like the ability to sort of just see how.
I have to say, this reminds me of a thing I used to do. I used to make some of my designers I used to work with crack up too. A slight confession. I feel like the picture people have in their heads of like how UX designers work is it's very like methodical, strategic, like where you're going and building out this thing. And maybe they exist and they're in the chat. More power to you if you're one of those designers. Me, I just like to honestly roll my head on the keyboard and see what the heck happens. I remember what you did reminds me of what I used to do when I was designing in Photoshop way back when for UI, where I did 2 things. I I would play with opacity, and I would play with overlays, or not overlays, sorry, blend modes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is I would take an object on top of another object, and I would just like hold down basically the modifier key and just like run my finger through 1 through 0 because it's it's a shortcut for opacity. I'd be like, I'm like, oh, that one looks good, and just stop it right there. And that's how I would design, honestly, just like by accident.
Yeah, that's that. I think that would probably resonate with a lot of people on the chat.
That's how I design,
right? Like, yeah, like that is totally how I think a lot of designers design. And actually, it's probably one of the best ways to design, and actually, in particular, in After Effects. You know, again, actually, that type of ability to sort of like cycle through and like see things in different ways, and then is really valuable inside like for like animation, you know. And so, you know, here you saw with us sort of tweaking the 3D transform and looking at it and evaluating it, right? Similar thing, you know, with any type of animation and visual sort of compositing as well. So
yep,
I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you.
So the takeaway there, pro tip, is just to, you know, smash your face across the keyboard, see what that happens, and there you go.
Just do that. Just do
your
that.
design. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm gonna do some auto animate here. I'm gonna take that down.
The chat loves the blur, by the way. They think
the blur is good. All right. The blur is a little tricky. So we're gonna see how this goes, but I'm going to actually kind of move this off here.
I can't help myself now that I think about blurs. You know, the newest thing with VCs is, or video conferences, is just how much blur a person goes in their call. I always like to look at that. It's like a feature in a lot of video conferences where you can actually add some bokeh or some depth of field to your thing. Too much blur is not a good thing, guys.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
So there we go. Like there's our
that.
little.
Ooh, that is cool. You got it going from two angles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you know, it's kind of one of the hallmarks of, you know, interesting animation as well, is just that ability to kind of like that's a little better, that's a little smoother there.
There you go. Yep. And remind me again, are we going to share this for some?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to share this out. We're going to share this out first so everybody can kind of give us some feedback on it, check it, you know, give us, you know, make some comments on it, mark it up.
Yes.
And of course, as we continue to sort of riff on this, let's quickly do this same thing for Emma real quick.
All right.
And actually, let me just make sure, I need to make sure I name, this is the artist detail. So a quick note about auto animates, again, an area where I think in the future, we'd love to see this actually be better. Is you have to make sure that your layers are named the same. So that way, again, auto animate knows this thing and this thing, you know, animate between the two states. So definitely, you know, going to be sort of checking that out. One thing to note too here is that the card is actually has not sort of moved up in the Z stack. So as I go and I paste in the artist detail onto Emma's card here, you can see the card, I don't have to move it backwards and forwards because technically it's closer to me than the little detail of sort of readout here of Emma's bio.
Right.
So let's see. Okay, let's check out. Oh, we got to put the blur too.
Yes. Oh, look at that. Copy paste. Easy. Oh.
That's so good.
It's magic.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I just love looking at previews sometimes. It surprises me. Like you made this whole thing and you knew it was coming, but it still surprises in a delightful way.
It's so nice. Okay, so now I just had this crazy idea for the next transition to the next screen.
All right.
Okay. What if so this is the one card, right? And of course, it's important that you can use part of your experience. You don't want to have a predetermined sort of reading. And so of course, the next screen is going to be us getting ready to, you know, we're going to see the cards. We're going to see the deck, right? Because this is going to, you know, we're going to go into our reading and start the whole, you know, shuffling and everything like that. What if this card actually flipped over and landed on top of the deck when you clicked on select deck?
like an Olympic diver.
Like rotated
going into the
around and
thing.
then just like settled. I have a vague idea of how I'm gonna do it.
All
So
right.
we're gonna give it our best shot. Is everybody ready for this? Do a
Like,
flip. Val says yes. We're ready. We're
Echo
ready
the
for it.
dolphin action about to come. All right, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Okay, we're gonna take a step back or two because I didn't actually set this up. And actually, if any of you were paying attention in the Max demo of XD that the lovely Koi Vin
Yes.
gave, there was a moment in there where there actually was a card flip, and actually you saw the back of the card, right? So Koi reached out to me before Max and said, hey, we need something really cool to show for 3D Transform. And it took me a while. And of course, doing what I do, which is just kind of iterate and play in XD, I figured something out. And it took me a good while to kind of like figure it out. Not too long, but like I had to kind of, and how do I combine all these things together to get this amazing result? And so bear with me here. This might not be perfect, but I'm going to try and recreate that card flip that I created.
There's a lot of hype right now for this flip. People are like, is it possible? Is he going to do the impossible right now?
Here we go. Okay. So we've got our card back here. All right, let's bring this over here.
All right.
Okay. Let's get our card back. So we want this card back to be on the back of the card. And we want, of course, when the card flips over, right, to then kind of be, it'll be sort of upside down. It'll be sort of turned around and full. And so if I went and I turned Emma's card around right now, so I'm just going to turn this blur layer off real quick. So if I went and turned Emma's card around right now with using 3D Transform, what you'll notice is it basically flips her image. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Emma, everyone.
Oh, hey.
The amazingly talented Emma Zhang.
Oh my goodness.
Who I can't sing the praises of enough.
Follow her.
Now joined us in the chat today. Emma, you're so awesome for letting us, of course, use your amazing artwork today for the stream. And I kind of told her a couple weeks ago, I said, hey, Emma, I got this crazy idea for a tarot app. What do you think? can we maybe maybe fold in some of your artwork? And
can we show the world how amazing you are, Emma, please?
Yes. See, just go up here. Let me just count how many. There's at least a dozen reasons here, and there's more because she's just a lovely human being in general, and so generous. She's such a generous sort of creative spirit. We did, Emma and I share a love of risograph printing, which I want to say I maybe turned her on to. I know we have a printer, and I've been missing those sessions of printing, fun artwork, in the office with Emma. So
I would like a session of how to be Emma. If we can have her on the live stream where she can just talk about how look at the color theory behind even just this card. I was staring at it earlier. I was just like, oh my goodness. This girl is talented.
It's just beautiful. Okay. So, she's been here from the start. I'm so glad that you chimed in.
She knew we were just going to go gushing for like a good 5 minutes.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. So what I want is when this gets turned over, I want this to be on the back.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So this is how we're going to do it, everybody. Okay, I'll have to redo some of the work that I've done on the animations, but that's fine. We're going to come back to that here in a sec. So let me turn this detail off for a second.
This feels like a moment from the movie The Prestige where you're kind of seeing the behind the scenes duct tape and the dove and I'm like, where is it?
Okay, so one of the things that, again, this is kind of a unique thing to 3D Transform, and you can't think about 3D Transform as like from other 3D tools, because there's not really a sense of like absolute 3D space. The canvas itself, the artboard itself, is actually not a three-dimensional space, right? What you're doing is you're actually creating for each group or each object, it has its own little mini 3D world, right? And that's super important because basically what you can do is you can kind of interlace them in really interesting ways. Like if I rotate this one, and then I rotate this one, and then I grab these two together, and I rotate them together.
They're dancing.
They're dancing, right? But if I put, say, this in a group with this, so I group these together, and then I transform Richard Black's card here, and then I go inside and I rotate this one here, these two are now kind of operating kind of an independent 3D planes.
Yep.
Right. So the rotations happening with these two cards in here are not going to interact with the rotation happening here. But if I do this, right, you can see this group is rotating with things inside of it. And you see here, again, like Richard's thing, again, you can see it's not rotating on top of those cards inside of there. Because again, the group, this card group and this card are kind of at the same level, but these cards are kind of internally kind of in their own little 3D world. And so that's super, super powerful. And that kind of, again, that realization will help you kind of, I think, come and you do even more kind of amazing things that we haven't even thought of yet. So something to just sort of note. It's a little strange if you're used to 3D tools, but it's super powerful if you kind of just sort of, get into it a little deeper. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to rotate this basically all the way around 180. And this is where I'm going to do the adjusts and I'm going to put in the number.
Do the adjust, huh?
All right.
Do you like the PI? Yep.
Okay. So, and as you can see, all right, I can move them forwards and backwards in the layers panel. And of course, that will sort of interleave them. But that doesn't help me get all the way. It will actually kind of, if I pay attention only to the layers panel, it'll actually kind of make things a little weird when I start to rotate the whole group together. So what I'm going to do to get a little separation here, because again, they're on the same plane right now. I'm going to move the backwards in space by like -1, just barely, right? And then I'm going to do that here. So now when I come out, and now I've got the group selected, not the individual cards inside of it. So now when I rotate that around, actually, it really only works on animation because here, I'll show you. Okay, so then what I'm going to do here on this one, this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to rotate this all the way around the group, not the objects. So, and again, because if you remember internally, these things are still at the same, like the card back is still behind the card front. I'm going to make this one go to -1, and I'm going to make the card back come up to 0. Right. So now I go back into prototype mode. And we're going to do that. And do that. Yep. And here to this. Okay.
Whoa. Oh.
And there.
This is basically how you described it is like what you would do in real life, right? Like where you have an image that's printed. It's like you don't have a double-sided printer. Here we go.
Yeah.
So
I just paste them onto the back.
You paste them onto the back of each other, -1, +1, and then you make a double-sided printout of this card. Wow. I love Howard's puns, by the way. He just said that he's flipping out. He probably had that one sitting, waiting
Amazing, Howard. Moment. Amazing.
That is awesome.
Yep. So there you go. Now we've got a back to our card. And so now we're going to redo that other screen real quick.
Yep.
But then when we flip it, we're going to be able to flip it kind of on its end.
Yes.
Yeah. Back to where it began.
Wow, that was really easy. I have to say, I've seen a lot of these flips and demos, and I was always curious what people did with you and Howard and your fancy cards and designs, but this is much more achievable. And now I'm gonna just have in the back of my mind this like really like makeshift two papers gluing them together trick up my sleeve. I love it.
Just always make sure you rotate the back paper 180. Group them together. Make sure you group them together first. Rotate the back 180. Offset it a little bit, little space between there, little daylight between those two. Then when you rotate it again, just sort of swap them. So now the front is going to be back a little bit, and the back will be back at 0.
Awesome.
Yep. So there you go. There is the card flip. And now let's go and put this into action and get to our deck stacking and our dealing. All right. So I'm gonna go back through and I'm gonna undo this real quick. We'll get there for a second. Okay, and then I'm gonna delete this one real quick because I'm actually gonna replace it. So I'm gonna replace that. So this is there. Okay. Copy. I'm gonna call this properly so we don't get all messed up.
You're gonna name your layers?
Yep. Yep.
Impressive.
We are.
Impressive.
So then we go over here.
And Curtis asks, so you just adjust the Z index level as you rotate them?
Yep, exactly. I'm animating the Z index as I'm animating the rotation. So the rotation is on the group. The Z index is inside the group.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So here, we're going to do it again, Curtis. So hold on one sec, because we're going to do it here in just a moment. So I'm going to sort of do our little dramatic sort of like thing here with Emma. And actually, I'm probably going to actually, because we have her name here, I'm actually going to animate that off.
Yep.
Right, from her label. Okay, great. And then I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to turn these back on. And then we're going to go to prototype mode here. And let's see.
He's so fast.
Boom.
You need like a slow motion version of your stuff.
Go. Okay, that goes back there. Okay, so let's check this out.
All right.
Great. So we've got that. Now for the next step. Are you ready? Are we ready? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to copy this again here. All right. And then this is going to fade out. This is going to fade out. These cards here are going to, what should we do with these cards?
I don't know.
Well, let's just, let's move them off.
All right.
Let's move them down. Let's see how that looks. Turn this here. Okay, here. Okay, now for the flip. Now remember, we've got to animate.
Component.
We've got to animate between. We've got to animate between them. So we're going to set this here, right?
Yep.
So there, and then we're going to rotate this around here. And let's get this in here.
Is it more cool that I can see you making this happen, or is it less cool? I think it's more cool seeing how you're doing it, because that was impressive before, but it's actually more impressive, I think, now seeing you actually manipulate this.
Well, it's a magic trick for sure. You know,
Yes.
it's just like one of those things. So this is gonna be 0. This is gonna. Oh, this is the group. Sorry. Inside of here, we're gonna move this to 0. Move that to.
Whoa, there it is. I can't wait.
Okay, let's try this. Let's see how this goes. Again, it might not be perfect right away, but we're gonna keep refining it. Okay. So here.
Whoa.
Whoa, that happened really fast. Let's slow that down.
That was really fast.
Let's slow that down.
That was so fast. That was like, boom, rabbit, out.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. Ah, very nice.
So for now it's upside down. So because we kind of flipped it over, we want the Daily Arcana card back to be right side up.
True.
So what we can do is, I was concerned this was going to be the case. Let me go here. I'm going to take the card back and go back to design mode here. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it. And we're just going to do, let me see if this is the right way to do it here.
And thank you, Voodoo Val. Yep. We do have 6 minutes until we take a moment from this magic trickery that Talin is working on, and we do focus on one of our artists and showcase their lovely work. So stay tuned for that.
Exciting. Okay.
All right, did you fix it?
I fixed it. You ready?
I'm ready. Okay. We're all ready.
Okay, we've selected our deck.
Yep.
Here we go.
Cool. What did you do? All I saw was just random, like, how did you fix it? What?
Okay, so I went back into the card back, and I rotated the card back around the y-axis. So now it's rotated around the x-axis and around the y-axis.
I see.
So that gets us to right side up here because the card flips down.
Okay.
The card back itself has to be rotated 180 from there. So as it flips down to the right way.
That's a lot of beautiful mind calculations happening, but I think I follow. That is awesome. That is awesome.
All right, that's really cool. That's I think that's working out pretty well. What does everybody think in the chat here? This is
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is amazing. That's very cool. What?
That was crazy. Okay, let's go. What's going on? Oh, it's because this one went all the way back here. So you could actually, what was going on was that on this page, I needed to go back in and here and do the same rotation here to.
How many times can your design tool actually like surprise you, right? There.
Whoa.
Oh, that is.
Did you see that? That was so good.
I love it. My goodness. Can we just take a moment and just embrace how beautiful that was?
So good. So good.
That is super cool.
One of my favorite things, why I actually, when I learned After Effects for the first time, one of my favorite aspects of design, I actually designed a book in After Effects. I don't recommend anyone ever doing that. Because that's insanity. And it was insanity a little bit. But what I wanted to do, what I love doing in After Effects with motion, and it's a similar thing that's going on here in XD, is you set the stage for your design. You say, okay, here's a start point, here's the end point.
Mm-hmm.
XD, you tell me how we're going to get there, and then you see what happens. In that, right? And that's where that discovery really comes into play. And so what I wanted to do in After Effects back in the day was I wanted to sort of set the stage for the design. And then I wanted to see what happened kind of as you went between them. And then I would take a freeze frame from somewhere in the middle and just like see what it looked like. And I actually made a book of all of those freeze frames between sort of point A and point B. And it was like this book was basically like evolving into itself, into its final form.
Yep.
And as you read the book. So
that sounds not only like a lot of work, but very impressive how you managed to plan that and make that happen. That's awesome.
So there we go. So we have our card selection, our deck selection, to our to our deck stacking. And from here is when we're going to go and we're going to fan out the deck and we're going to choose our cards and we're going to start our reading. So.
Well, this is a great time to pause on this for a moment. And before I go to the artist showcase, I do want to do a quick shout out of what's to come after this stream. Thank you all for having joined us so far. Again, if you're newly tuned in, we are, Talin and I, Jess, we are designing a tarot card today and tomorrow from 12 to noon. But shortly after this, at 2 p.m., please stay tuned and watch the XD Daily Creative Challenge with the lovely Andrea Epi. Fabulous, wonderful lady. And afterwards at 2:30, we do have Doodle Therapy with Allison and Nusha. So make sure you watch those streams and enjoy them to your heart's content. All right, so allow me to go ahead and pull up our fantastic artist that I'm going to showcase today. And hitting buttons. There we go. All right, so we have up here a fantastic, beautiful artist named David Plasek. I hope I pronounced that correctly, David. We're going to take a look at his work today. I will say that in looking at it, I have some favorites I'd love to go through immediately and just kind of go on and gush about him because he's super talented and awesome. So I'm going to start with, actually, no, wait. I'm going to start with my favorite one. Sorry.
Yes.
So I have to say, whenever I look at portfolio work, I have seen a lot of portfolios in my life. And so, I kind of expect a certain thing. And this was very weird meta for me because when I looked at this, I knew he made it in Adobe XD. And I know all the features, but I somehow didn't anticipate he would do this. So I'm not sure if this is going to capture all of it, but I'm just going to hit the play button. And let's see. Mm-hmm. It may not capture everything. It's beautiful. It shows you in context a person going through. And this is the part that might not come through. because it has audio. But right now it is playing music. And when I was watching the portfolio, and I don't know if it's in the chat yet, but happy to share a link to this. When I was watching it, I was at this point, right? I was like, this is very cool. He pasted it in context to someone holding a phone, which feels very human. I love that. He's using these great transitions around scrollable groups, which is absolutely awesome to see in the wild, and these beautiful time transitions. And I was like, this is really cool. I love it. XD, great, yay, lovely prototype. And before I got to here, I didn't think about the fact that this was a music app when I was looking at it. And it was just so that when we got to this point and the music started playing, I was like, oh my gosh, audio triggers. He's using audio triggers to make an immersive experience. And I was just blown away for a moment there. So amazing work on this, and just really cool.
Really lovely work. Really great work. Yeah, the surprise, the audio sort of sampling in the transition at the end, just so delightful. And I think,
so good.
I mean, definitely one of those ways, that you can use to stand out. We talked earlier about, the prestige, right?
Absolutely.
Part of storytelling, is sort of that build up, to that reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much delight in that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of one of those reasons why I love using like the stuff that I designed, like Repeat Grid, or I love just using the features that like the 3D Transform, Auto Animate. Is like that surprise is so important to the experience. And it really adds a different level. So really great work.
I mean, I just love just how immersive and interactive his portfolio is. And I have to say, as a person who cringes whenever someone sends me a video that's more than like 10 seconds, because I have no patience for watching videos, I would say that if I didn't see that video for this portfolio, I would be missing out on just how rich this experience is, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I was just looking at these two screens right here, they're beautifully executed. Don't get me wrong, and I love them. And I love the fact that this music is actually literally music I was listening to earlier today. So it's like, love your music taste. Yeah. But right here, right? Like this has so much into the prototype of like audio triggers, the motion that's moving. It just integrates so well. And this is the kind of rich craftsmanship that I always look for lately with new tech apps, is just that kind of stuff. So appreciate it. And I will say these little tiny flourishes, like trying to reinvent some of those common patterns around the hamburger menu and so on and so forth, is absolutely superb. Mm-hmm. So very big fan, really love it. So moving on to the next piece, similarly, again, a great use of video from the start to really show the immersion here. And there's just so much about the sequencing he's done here that I am a really big fan of. I mean, just look at that. Like, what?
Yeah. I know, even knowing XD as well as I do, right, and you do, like looking at that, I'm just kind of like, wait, how do you do that?
Right? Yeah. I love it. And there's just so many little micro interactions and things that he's doing that's just absolutely impressive. And really cool. I think back to 4 or 5 years ago when you'd only be able to see this kind of rich interaction happen live. Like literally you have to HTML prototype it with some JavaScript to get these interactions in. And now designers everywhere are able to do so in such a way. It's just super cool. I geek out about it. But moving into the design itself, I don't know about you, but I'm a very big fan of just kind of seeing a lot of like little flourishes carry through in a design, right? So just this use of like weights of lines, really kind of integrating into these little micro interactions, the slider, so on and so forth. Really beautiful.
Yeah, really thought about the navigation, I think, as well, and just in terms of how all the pieces fit together, right? Mm-hmm. Another really important reason why interactive prototyping is so helpful earlier in the process is just being able to figure out how this jigsaw puzzle that is this big, sometimes this big gnarly site or this app that you're working on with all these different complex steps, right? Just getting a sense of how those things fit together can really show in the final result at the end of the day. Especially for projects again that might be conceptual projects, might be student projects, again, things that, we have the benefit, Jess, you and I, of our work being out there in the hands of people who are, quite opinionated. So we hear when things are, things aren't working. But I think, again, we try and, of course, minimize as much of that as possible by doing much more interactive prototyping, more sort of in iterative prototyping, and of course, like you see the results pay off, in his work, in David's work here, because it just feels like you can tell like he's done the work, he's figured out how those pieces fit together, and interactive prototyping sort of brought it all together in a way that feels like a really cohesive experience.
Yeah. And I will say I'm super happy about the trend a bit into showing these immersive experiences, because, I'll be frank, like this is beautiful, but it just doesn't tell the same story as what we just saw on the start of this Behance page, right? Which is the fact that there is so much detail going into this experience that just makes it engaging. So absolutely love it. And also shout out for a great color palette. I think that like lately Talin and I are like very anti-trend. So anytime, as you saw with his opening remark on sans serifs versus serifs. But again, similar, I don't see this color palette out in the wild as much as I'd like. And so very nice job there.
Great job.
This one is the starting piece for the work that is shown here. And I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about some of the things here that are fun. I think sometimes creating a simple design is actually pretty hard to do. And I think that you really have to balance where you put those little delightful pieces while not taking away from the core action that your users are trying to have. And so, something as simple as this, which is, relatively easy to execute though, is actually hard to just kind of ensure that the outcome is exactly how you want it, which is you have a clear CTA, you have a clear sub CTA, and then you also have like this really nice, lovely sort of interaction. And I didn't expect it right away. And I think it carries through in his work in that, like, even how he's laying out this portfolio design, there's these little subtle leaves here. I'm just like, wow, this guy cares about craft. This guy cares about detail. It's super awesome. It's funny. I didn't make this note earlier. Talin, you tend to go for circles with your little color swatches, don't you? You're a circle fan.
No, I go back and forth. Circles felt appropriate today for this one for some reason.
Yeah. No, but I do like it, and I approve of his amount of rounded corners that he has. But very cool stuff showing user flows, really showing the IA there. I love seeing a portfolio that has the work behind it. I think sometimes designers go about trying to literally walk you through their work. And for me, anyway, when I look at portfolios, I care less about being walked through every step of the way. To me, when I look at this stuff, it's kind of like a homework check. Did you do all the work? Is it authentic and real looking? Yes. And I kind of skip through and kind of see how the end results speak for themselves. But really great wireframes, nice work overall, great project design, just really crisp and clean. Really action driven. You can tell that this is a very practical site, not just one of those showpieces that's like razzle dazzle. And so very well done.
Yeah. I sometimes there is that tension, or is it that tough transition from going from, projects that are, so self-started or school-based projects, and sky's the limit. You can kind of do whatever you want. And then when you sort of make that shift into more sort of client-based or project-focused, work out there in the real world, like you are going to run into constraints and you are going to run into limitations. And that's when, like showing a full project like this and showing how, even given that, you were able to take those limitations and make something even better than maybe someone else would have given the same sort of scenario. I think we work better with limitations sometimes, and and understanding, the client, or understanding the platform you're designing for, can, instead of being constraining, again, I think a lot of people sort of see it that way when they first get out into the world, like it actually can kind of free you up, right? And kind of actually put you in a situation where you might, create something better than you would have without it. So I always appreciate seeing, things like this, again, that might seem very, sort of regimented or staid, or like maybe not as exciting as some of the projects you might see on Behance or Dribbble, but seeing the end-to-end process really shows that this designer took those limitations, whatever they might be, and actually made something better out of it because of that. So.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that is actual work that people use aren't those concept cars, right? And if you can apply that great design sense and that great thinking on a quality experience to something that people are using regularly, I think that's almost more impressive, right? And I think that you can show how you push the boundaries in a way that's actually still relevant to the user's experience, which is, king at the end of the day, right? Totally. So absolutely love it. I think this is great. I'll add one more note on here is that, this is a portfolio, but just the immersive nature of how this is designed is just going to do wonders for whichever developer builds this, right? being able to convey like the intent around how this experience goes is going to be huge for a developer who looks at this and is trying to understand what they're trying to build, right? So excellent work across the board on this one.
Great work.
I'm going to do one more before we get back to your stuff and wrap it up. I want to do more than one. But I think I will. I've seen all of it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, which one do I pick? I'm going to go ahead and just quickly skim through a couple and pick one. It's so hard to pick. They're all so good. Let's see. This is a quick challenge. This one is, yes, furniture design. Again, some really fun stuff right here. Oh my goodness, his interactions are awesome. I have to say, I'm just going to leave it on this one then and say that, you know, portfolio pieces that kind of stretch the bounds of what's conventional. We were just talking about conventional a moment ago, but that also do demonstrate where you can get playful is also, to me, huge. And I think that when I look at something like this, like, you know, what I see is like no lack of fear in being able to try something different, such as like not taking your typical, you know, 8-pixel round button that's your typical CTA and slapping that on the bottom, right? He is really trying to push the limits there, you know, integrate more of a innovative brand into this, and then from there, show how you can carry that thematically in a layout. I think that's super cool. And I love it because it tells me that he's a designer who can explore all ends of the spectrum. So, and so just scrolling down, here are some examples of that work. And absolutely loving it. I think that what you always see in David's work here is just the visual hierarchy. And you can tell he has a good taste for it. And the fact that my eye is immediately attracted to the thing that needs to be attracted to. My eye knows where to go for the action I need to take. And a lot of the sort of affordances that are kind of baked in to clue the designer or clue the user in on what to do next is obvious, right? And so very great job just across the board and super fun. I wish I could actually explore furniture like this. This would be pretty neat. So
yeah, I know. I'm gonna like select the different colors and see the little carousel.
I know.
See all the different views and see see how it changes with the different colors. Yeah.
You don't get to see it. It's funny because it's so easy to like design something like this, but how many times do you actually see this in the wild?
Yeah.
You don't get to see it that much. Last thing I'll say.
Go ahead. Not well done is what I'll say. Like I've tried. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I will say last thing is I'm just going to do a quick scroll because I want y'all to see just the diversity of his portfolio, which I was really impressed with. I think that a lot of these are daily challenges, which are really awesome. We do with the daily challenges try to push the whole spectrum and show the kind of versatility you have as a designer. So it's great to see him embrace that. But look at just how well curated his thumbnails are, right? Like they're very much to the theme of that focus that he drives in his designs. You can definitely immediately get a feel for what you're about to look at. And then from there, kind of look in deep, see this and get a feel for his style, his approach, his execution. And there's a good variety here that makes me constantly intrigued, right? He's not afraid to take advantage of the trends around displaying work that you see, not afraid to still kind of show the most important aspects of that experience, which is great. And you just kind of want to keep clicking. And I think when you're able to have a portfolio that just makes you want to keep clicking, that's just a successful portfolio at the end of the day. So great job, David. Thank you for letting us highlight your work. Absolutely love it. And keep it up. You're doing some great stuff here. And it's super fun to be able to take a look and say that. All right, so that's me. Let's take a look, Talin, at your work and go back to here, do a little bit of a wrap up and a little bit of a tease into what we can expect for tomorrow.
Let's do it. So today we started, of course, by being inspired by the lovely Emma Zhang and her amazing work with her tarot card project. Emma, I can't wait. I want to buy this. Just like, tell me when.
Emma, go faster.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna buy it. I'd love to actually print these too. Have you tried risographing these, Emma? I think it'd be a little complex, but they'd be amazing. So we started by being inspired by Emma, and of course all the other sort of amazing sort of artists out there creating kind of their new take on the classic tarot deck. and we are creating a tarot deck of our own. And we started with a little bit of sort of exploration in style here with our app being called the Daily Arcana. It's an app you're going to come into every day, and you're going to be able to browse around and actually select different decks from different artists, and to kind of kick off your tarot reading experience. And we did a couple. We showed off some of the new features in XD. One of them being, of course, XD's integration into libraries. So now we can access any of our Creative Cloud libraries directly inside of XD. We can connect. We can link different libraries to different documents, right? So we're not just having to navigate, all the different libraries I use for all my different projects. Again, I can get the ones that I need for this project, and then of course I can actually now publish all my asset panel, whether it be my colors, character styles, or components, as a new library. And let's see, I've done that here today. Looks like libraries is having some little trouble there, but we'll come and check that out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about, again, the workflows around Creative Cloud libraries with XD. Kind of show, we'll probably start a new document, connect the design system from our tarot app into another document, because we got kind of a surprise tomorrow. We're going to be trying something a little different. We're going to be extending our experience into new territory. Very excited about that. So we'll get into that a little bit tomorrow. And then today, after we sort of, we created our system, we started to sort of kind of work with it. We thought we started to sort of sketch out and rough in kind of the core of our experience here, which is being able to select a deck and then being able to go into the shuffle and deal part of the tarot reading. And we use 3D Transform to make some really great, and Auto Animate to make some really cool animations and transitions, including this crazy flip that we imagined as we sort of select Emma's deck to get ready for our tarot reading tomorrow. Here now we've landed and we're ready to deal out our deck. And there's some fun little interactions and rituals we're going to talk about when it comes to shuffling your tarot deck tomorrow. And then of course the reading, and then sort of part of the experience of the reading. And again, we're going to be taking this experience into some really interesting territory tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, and I'm super curious actually, because we do have a couple minutes left to kind of talk a little about our game plan for tomorrow here with this design. But from here is the idea that I learned about the deck I want. Emma's amazing. We're going to keep saying that over and over again. Emma's amazing. And then from there, where am I going from here? So
here we're going, this is basically, we're selecting our deck, and this is placing it on top of the deck, the full deck. Because that was just one card. So this is actually, we can actually go, maybe do a little bit of that right now.
Okay, I was going to say, where are we going here?
Yeah. What if we did a little bit of that right now? So I'm going to create another card here just for a sec, so we can clean up some stuff that we've got going on here. And get rid of that. What we want to do is actually use 3D Transform, and we're gonna create a little deck here. And again, we're gonna play with some different effects and shadows to kind of get this cool sort of stack of cards here.
I see. And by the way, for those who are still playing around with 3D Transform, like all of our features, they all work together really well with each. And hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I am curious, Talin, if you're going to spend any time tomorrow with a little bit of components, repeat grids, all that good jazz.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll definitely dig into all of that.
Very cool.
So today was kind of, again, us kind of getting showing some delight of 3D Transform
and libraries.
Tomorrow we'll dig in a little deeper. Of course, today we talked about padding as well.
Yep.
We talked about components.
We'll get
into states. We'll get into scroll groups as well. We'll get into states tomorrow as well, because there's a really great feature that we just launched, which is really then communicating your, whether it's your design or your design system, to your developer.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about states and the rest of that sort of design system workflow as well.
So here, so to answer my question from earlier, people land here, they see the deck in front of them. We talked a lot about just how important this part is for the ritual process. I'm curious, actually, I don't know if Val's listening in too deeply here, but like specifically, this is kind of something I question is, when is analog, right, more ideal than digital? And it's funny because you and I, we design digital experiences for a living, but we also talk about our love for paper books. We talk about our love for just kind of experiencing things in the real time. And I think what I gleaned away from this, and Val, let me know what you think if you've got some thoughts here, but and anyone else, but it seems like there's just a lot of intent behind the shuffling portion. And it's not like Talin, there's anything you can do about it, probably. But how, if you guys have ideas, right, how do we kind of incorporate the ability to kind of have that sort of direct sort of analog intimacy, if you will, with the shuffling process? Because what we're going to do is we're just going to design, slap together a bunch of those graphic cards, put them in a thing, and then you're going to hit an auto shuffle button or whatever, and then bam, you have the ability to do a reading. But, especially if you're a big, advocate for this, like, I think that there's probably a lot more intent that gets missed in that. So any ideas that you have to kind of make that kind of come through digitally, we are totally open to hearing about it and doing something to emulate that. So,
like, one of the things that I had jotted down in my notes was there, when you have the deck, when you do kind of a shuffle, one of the things you do before you start to read is you actually, like, you tap on the deck, you knock on the deck, right?
Yeah.
Or you cut it into 3 stacks.
Yep.
Right. So it'd be kind of fun to think about, like, what's that choose your own adventure? How can you customize the shuffling and the dealing experience to sort of fit you and your needs? I think it'd be really fun.
And add that sort of like personal sort of touch, right, if you will, that goes through digitally. I think there's definitely something to that, and would love to hear some thoughts tomorrow for those who tune in on what we do there, because definitely that micro interaction that can make it really feel great. So
really delightful. I think that's a great point.
Someone said audio shuffle sounds.
Oh wow.
We haven't thought about audio for this, have we?
I have not thought about audio. That's would be
interesting.
Great. I like that.
You've got our heads spinning, Russell, in terms of what we're gonna do tomorrow. Yep. That would be huge, actually. Got to find some sounds there. And audio is definitely one of those things that is honestly, sadly, a little bit of an afterthought, even as you and I are talking about it right now, right? Like, I think it comes in at the end, but it is what creates that really immersive experience. I've never seen a video or like an app that doesn't really have that, right? So it's a very good point. But yeah, cool. So as Talin wraps up, I realized that I did not say the thing that I wanted. I was thinking of the things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned today on the stream. And one thing I didn't mention is my love for anime. I always have to kind of add it in there. And I know Voodoo Val is appreciative of this, as well as some other folks. I will mention it tomorrow, though, for sure, because I said I would, which is that when Talin introduced me to the tarot card idea, I was like, what? I don't know anything about this. And I was like, nope, actually, I watched an anime called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which completely references tarot cards and the arcana, right? And they have a bunch of different stories there behind each of those different characters, if you will. So I will touch on that tomorrow, promise. And Val came here for the anime memes. Many memes, including anime, are included in any live stream with Talin and Jess. But definitely that one is missed today, so I will get to it tomorrow. But love what you're doing here, and can't wait to explore this a bit more. If there's anything that the chat wants to ask, feel free to throw it in. But we will be sharing a prototype of this at some point. So because we want to hear your feedback either in the chat or just afterwards. Always love hearing it. Always love seeing how you guys can use this kind of stuff. So stay tuned, and we'll definitely share that link at some point. So all right, Talin.
Thanks for joining us.
That's it for today.
Thanks, Jess. That was such a pleasure, always.
Same here, and appreciate all you all for joining us on the stream. Looking forward to chatting with you again tomorrow. And up next is Daily Creative Challenge. So see you all later.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.